Hello, everyone. This is video master Victor Neustroyev. Thank you for joining my webinar. Today, we are going to talk about a piece sacrifice on G7 or G2 in order to make the enemy king's position weak and take advantage of a strong attack then. Okay, so people are joining. We have to check our homework from the previous webinar. Also, please let me know whether your sound or video quality is good and whether you attend this webinar for the first time. You can introduce yourself a little. So for example, you can tell what's your rating is. If you have a FIDE rating, that's great. If not, just your chess.com rating and which country you are joining us from. Okay, so the webinar is recording as usual. It's also streaming on YouTube at the moment. And tomorrow I'm going to send an email with the recording as well as the homework of this for this webinar by email for those who registered. Yeah, if you have anything to say, you can unmute yourself and say that. Well, but you can also use chat. So what are we going to talk about? Today, the topic is a sacrifice on G7 or G2. But first of all, we're going to start with our previous topic. So when we were luring the enemy king and taking advantage of it. So we voluntarily we are leaving our king in the center and trying to take benefits of doing it. That was the homework. So in this position, knight e5 was played as command, so knight d7. This is a very specific move because it makes the enemy king vulnerable. And those of you who said that you have to sacrifice on f7 right away and then initiate the attack are absolutely right. So they cannot ignore this knight, they have to take it. King takes, and then obviously queen h5, doing a double attack. Well, if the king just moves away, or maybe to f6, it is a disaster. We take on d5, win a piece back. In case of king g8, it can even lead to a checkmate. In case of king f6, it's also unfavorable. G6 means that they sacrifice the knight back, and it doesn't make much sense. So king e6 is the only option. But king e6 offers a very strong attack to white. So how did white continue then? Well, g3. Well, it was also possible to play c4, but it's not a mistake. g3, b5. b5 allows this bishop to get to b7. It stops c4, as well as potentially it allows the king to escape to b7. a4, undermining it, c6. So here the question was how to play for white in this position. Well, a takes b5 can be played, right? So, and I think it's a good move. In the game, white, it was David Navarro, one of the strongest grandmasters and probably the strongest one from Czech Republic. So he played knight c3, which is a mistake. Instead, bishop h3 would make much more sense. I think the reason of g3 was mainly to play bishop h3 after that. Well, a4 was played as an intermediate move to undermine, but then bishop h3 should be a must. Well, the king has to move. It's the only available square. If he goes there, it is a disaster. So there is bishop g5, which is a checkmate, right? So yeah, bishop g5 is a checkmate. So he goes to d6, castle, and if the kings try to escape like that, then a takes b5. How does it work? C takes b5 is not possible because the king is no longer protecting on d5. So that's why in this position they have to play this move and gain a tempo, but queen e5 gaining a tempo too. This move. And what would you play here? So while you're thinking, let me drink some juice. So I'm waiting for your suggestions. Well, there is no concrete win, but there is a long-term pressure. Well, I think c4 is a nice move. I agree about c4, so it does make sense, but not sure if it's what we need at the moment because we also have the bishop hanging here. So c4 can be played, but not immediately. b6 with a check. Okay, no. No, well, it was just bishop g2. Why? Because even if we pass the game to the end game, there will be a long-term pressure that white is going to take advantage of. So, for example, well, I actually don't know how to play. Well, maybe bishop e6 actually. Well, bishop e6, it can be this, and every time the king takes, it's c4. Well, because of the problems on this diagonal, maybe this is a good move. Well, then still it's possible to play something like that and take advantage of it with the idea of a sacrifice and doing c4 anyway. Okay, so it's a promising attack and bishop h3 was the best move. Instead, Navarro played knight c3. The game continued with g6 and he should retreat with the queen, but he played bishop h3, which was another mistake. So now, well, if the king goes there, it's probably queen e2 and they continue the attack. But of course, the best move is this. Queen f3 is another check, knight goes there. And here white doesn't have a compensation. The king escaped. So take, this, d5 is protected enough. Rook a7, knight takes e3, and after queen d5, Navarro realized that he has to exchange the queens, and then he does not have a compensation for the piece that he sacrificed, and then he just resigned here after 16 moves. So he could be winning if only he did start the attack properly. Anyway, so it's not related to our topic today. Our topic today is a sacrifice on g7, and we are going to start. We are going to start with it. Well, and first we start with this position. Maybe you know it. So those of you who know it, can you please tell me which game is it from? Or, well, actually, it's shown. It's Lasker playing against Bauer. Well, just tell me what's the next move of white. Okay, thank you. So I'm watching all the comments on Zoom as well as uh, on YouTube. So Rook f3 seems to be a slow move. Why? Because Rook f3, f6. And how do you continue the attack? Because your Rook h3 doesn't lead to a checkmate because they can escape with the king. So same thing works with Queen g4. Queen g4, f6. The right move is bishop takes g7, exactly. But before we start this topic, let me just make a kind of a summary before we get deeper into the sacrifices on g7. Well, you should understand that this is a very common strategy in order to expose the enemy king and take advantage of it. Well, when is it played? When you should do such a sacrifice? There should be some preconditions in the position. What are these preconditions? What I'm talking about? Usually, when you see that you have a material majority on the king side where the enemy king is located, you may do a sacrifice in order to expose the king and then coordinate your pieces better, attacking the enemy king. Well, it is allowed when you see that your pieces are, let's say, crowded the king side, or if you can quickly bring your pieces to the king side where the enemy king is, but your opponent cannot do it. For example, if his pieces are stuck on the other side of the board. So here, actually, this guy is defending with the bishop e7 only. That's why doing bishop g7 at least deserves attention. Maybe it doesn't win. We have to calculate it properly, but at least we should consider it because we have a queen and potentially a rook that can join the attack. That's why exposing the king, leaving him with no pieces that can cover the king's position, we may succeed with the attack. Okay, what else? Well, once the king goes to g7, it becomes the object of the diagonal and vertical attack. Very often, it's not just a sacrifice on g7, it's also a sacrifice on h7. For example, here, originally it was bishop h7 played, king takes, queen h5, king goes back, and then bishop g7. What else? So it exposes the king and allows you to succeed with a ladder mate with your queen and the rook. Well, sometimes you can instead bring the knight to h5 or h4. For example, Kasparov did it for black. He was playing knight h4 and then was sacrificing on g2. Sometimes there can be rook sacrifice, and then your other rook and the bishop can get coordination together. We are going to talk about these scenarios. But the key idea of all these sacrifices that you should have a very serious pieces concentration on the side where the enemy king is located. Because if you open the king's position and have no forces to attack, then what's the point of that sacrifice, and you're unlikely to achieve anything. So bishop g7, king takes, and how to play. Again, rook f3 this time fails. Why? Well, just because of this. Well, you can continue with rook g3, but they escape, and you have only queen left in the attack. Actually, wait a sec. Wait a sec. Queen h6, king e8, and you still win. They escape, and they have two bishops for a rook. So maybe it's still fine. But can in this position they continue with just f6? No, f6 fails, of course. Okay, they cannot. F5 fails too. Rook g8. Yes, so rook g3, king f8. Yeah, probably this is the best way to play. Yeah, so this it's not possible to take the other rook. I mean, yes, it is, but it's still two bishops versus rook and two pawns, so it's not a winning position. That's why if you want to prevent the king from escaping and you don't want his rook to join the defense and, for example, cover the g file, you have to deliver a check first. And this check, queen g4, forces the king to go away to the side, because if the king goes there, it's a simple checkmate with queen g5. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. It was a double bishop sacrifice. Now it's even called a Lasker combination. Okay. Yeah, okay. Brian sent me a very nice example. Probably we are going to talk about it to day two. Brian, if you please tell me if you are ready to explain the combination. I will set the position on the board, and if you can explain how this sacrifice works, that will be great. Okay, perfect. So once we finish with this, I'll set the position on the board. So queen g4. King goes to the edge of the board. Doesn't matter h7, h6, or h8. h7 is probably better. You later will see why. Rook f3, a rook leaves. It seems that rook h3 is a checkmate and nothing can stop it. Actually, e5 can stop it because now the king is on h7. That's why there is a possibility of queen h6. If the king was there or there, queen h6 wouldn't be either possible or wouldn't save the game at all. Well, queen h6, rook takes, king takes, and queen d7, winning material. Now one of the bishops is saved, the other one is lost, and that's it. So queen b7, they play this move and the rook f1. So white has material advantage. It's queen and 2 pawns versus a rook and bishop. So absolutely winning for white. Well, here it was a Lasker combination. Originally, there was a bishop sacrificed on h7, but the key idea why it worked was mainly because the king was kind of separated from the other pieces, and almost nobody defended the king. Well, if white played something like that, then they could bring pieces to the defense. But if queen g4 first, then the king is isolated on the h file, so you can simply do rook lift and succeed with it. Okay, now, well, yeah, let me set that position on the board. Orientation black and black to move. So this is the position for black. Well, I didn't prepare this example, so just Brian sent it to me. That's why we can discuss it. Queen g4, rook e1, knight is on e6. Brian, which game is it taken from?
I'm not sure. I found it online.
Oh, okay. So yeah, here we are. So please explain, how does a sacrifice on g2 work this time?
Yeah,
I'll make
so
the moves for. Mhm.
so the first thing to notice is that white is threatening maiden one, and there are I mean you can try something passive like rook f7 maybe, but I think you can still run into problems. For instance, uh, knight takes g7. If rook takes, then rook e8.
Right, and after the king goes, it's a checkmate with queen e6. Right, right. So maybe we may not take this knight, but it seems that the king is exposed and the passive defense won't work. Okay, so that's why we may look for counterattack, an aggressive way of defending our position. Please continue.
Yeah. It's also worth noting that if we try a move like c5, then or to guard against that, then we lose the rook. And it's hard to find a way to defend against rook e8 coming, and then the queen coming after that.
Okay, fine. So based on what you may consider a queen sacrifice on g2? So what are these preconditions that may tell you that such a sacrifice deserves our attention at least?
Well, in this case, if you can force everything with a check, then there are no opportunities for the opponent to take control of the game. So that's why here queen g2 sacrifice allows for rook 5 f2, which is another check, and the two rooks on the 7th here give a draw by repetition.
Yeah, so if the king goes there, it's even a checkmate, but if the king goes somewhere else, then we have to repeat. So in case of king f1, which is a blunder, we do a checkmate, of course. But if he just keeps his king on g1, h1, we are not able to win. He has 3 squares and we have only 2 rooks that can guard only 2. So yeah, here the best decision is to draw the game with a perpetual check. Otherwise, we have the white has a devastating attack and we're likely to lose. Right. So what I wanted you to point out also about this position before you decide to consider this is that uh, 2 rooks are targeting f2, and once the king is attracted, it will be a check. So this is what Brian said, that all the moves are checks. But so the rook coordination, this is also important factor. Okay, very nice example. Thank you. Let's continue. That was a Lasker game. Now let's continue with an example taking from one of the tactical books. Here, okay, let's go back to the previous. There is a question whether g6 works or not. Well, it doesn't seem so. Well, I don't think it works. If g6 is played here, maybe there is knight f4 and rook e8 coming. Another thing is queen d4. It defends f2 and threatens a checkmate. And in case of, let's say, rook f7, well, it's just a simple mate. So no, g6 doesn't work. Okay, let's continue. Here, so black to move, and the question is whether bishop g2 is allowed. So let's say this move is played on the board. How would you continue here? Waiting for your suggestions. Well, we definitely should take advantage of, okay, bishop h7. Interesting. Shahrat suggests bishop h7. By the way, Shahrat, what's your elo? Okay, bishop h7. Well, in my opinion, bishop h7 is not the first move to consider here. So, well, let's... Oh, okay, so Crushed Hearts on YouTube also suggests bishop h7. Okay, so bishop h7, king h7, well, probably you mean queen h5, king goes to g8, but how you continue then? Well, let's say they just retreat with the bishop, for example, to d5. How do we succeed with this attack? Because if you think that we should sacrifice and then play rook g1, I think you are mistaken, because they can play rook g8 just. Rook goes here, this, check, king is 7, so the king escapes. What else? Well, even if you play king e2 right away, not sacrificing, they can start with... actually, it's a good point. How do they start? Maybe they start with rook e8, with an idea of moving the king to f8 and escaping there. So now, even if you do this, they can still escape. And it's not clear for me if white wins. It seems like not, because f7 is protected, the king escapes, and there is no full compensation. So, no. Bishop h7, definitely not. Queen h6 instead of rook g2. So here, queen h6, yes. Here, queen h6 makes more sense, but let's say g5. If you sacrifice, the rook is just a rook for a pawn. Okay. So that's why in this position, it does make more sense to play this move. If, for example, bishop h3, then queen h5 is a double attack. The bishop is lost. So they have several options. They can retreat with the bishop. I don't think it matters where, or they can try to defend it. If they defend it, then we can make a double attack, this and this. So the bishop is pinned. Once the bishop moves, it's queen g7 mate. And if they play anything else, we just take on g2. That's why probably we should look at the bishop retreating. But if the bishop retreats, how do we continue? So Shahrat, a4 is the move on the other side of the board. I don't think you can win, you can succeed with this attack by making such a slow moves. Or probably you mean h4, which is also very slow. It takes several tempi. No, it's fine. You can suggest anything that comes to your mind, and in your opinion, it makes sense. Okay, queen h5 in this position, but queen h5 in this position means g6. G6 defends everything. Well, okay, let's say the bishop can be sacrificed. F takes, rook takes, and in this position, yes, they can still take, which is possible, but just king h8. And how do you attack? Because with F's, by getting rid of the f7 pawn, black got rid of pawns which stopped the defense of the h7. Now, just locating the queen on e7 or the rook on f7 is enough to defend the king. Also, let's say maybe you start with a rook sacrifice. Pawn takes, bishop takes, but then again, it's queen e7. However, even if black decides to take, I don't think you win. It seems like a perpetual check only. So queen h6, queen g6. Because if you decide, let's say, play this move in this position, they just play that, and queen h6 means queen h7. Okay. So where is this line? Queen h6 g5. Yeah, so here h4. Okay, fine, but it seems to be very slow move. How can I continue here? Maybe it does make sense actually, but I don't think it works. Well, maybe it works. Okay, so maybe queen h6 we should react with g6 instead. And then it seems like a perpetual check after rook g4. So yeah, g5 wasn't the best continuation because of h4. Well, and this, maybe you do that, but then this rook goes to h4 and black has to sacrifice. Okay, so it seems that actually bishop h7 worked, but it doesn't work as well as rook g1 works. Now, instead of queen h5, it seems to me that these two pawns are likely to isolate the king from his other pieces. So rook g7. If he doesn't take, then even this move and queen g4, for example. So this is a checkmate. So they take. Now what? Well, now we should bring these pieces to the game, at least the queen. Maybe the queen is enough because the queen can be coordinated with the bishop. So, for example, queen g4, and the king has to go to h8 or h6. If it goes to h6, then queen h4 and the checkmate on h7. Because he cannot escape, right? So these three pieces, two pawns and the rook, do not let the king to go to the king side, as well as they do not allow black pieces to join the defense. What about king h8? What do you think? How to continue this time? So here you may choose among several moves like this, this, and that, but only one of them is correct. If you decide to play queen h5 or queen h4, well, actually queen h4 is a bad move because of f5, offering a queen exchange. White is a rook down, so black may sacrifice their pieces in order to defend. So queen h5 is better, but then f5, and how do you play? If you decide to take with the queen, then queen h4 defends h7. If you decide to take with a bishop, then the king escapes to f6, and black survives. In order to prevent it, queen f5 is the best move, so thanks for Crushed Hearts, who suggested it on YouTube. Queen f5. Queen f5 attacking h7, there is nothing they can do. Even they cannot escape because the rook blocks it. Blocks the way for the king to escape. So queen f5 and it's over. So again, this is an example of how such sacrifices may work based on the thing that the king is separated from his other army. And luckily the G file was open for us, so we could activate the G rook. If, let's say, they didn't take but played, let's say, a random move queen e7, then it doesn't seem that we have a strong attack. We can still play this or that move, but G6 saves the game. So white is better, but not winning immediately. Fine. The next example. What about this position? Again, here we definitely... Okay, just one more thing. I think I showed it. If bishop h3, it's queen h5, double attack. It's threatening checkmate and threatening to take the bishop. Okay, so this position, again, here, what you should notice is that the king, well, and the other army are separated. So if the king becomes the object of the attack, there are almost no pieces to help him to defend. Maybe just rook e7 to defend f7 pawn is the only way. And you should also pay attention to the fact that the king may potentially escape through e7. What do you think? How to start? And if you if you answer let's sacrifice rook on g7, then how do you succeed with this attack? So doing queen g4 does make sense, but then g6. Wait, no, queen g4, queen e5 works, defending g7. So no, it's definitely a mistake. Knight e4. Well, yeah, I would say knight e4 is a good idea if black didn't have an attack themselves, and yeah, here queen e1. So, well, what else they're going to do? I think they're going to sacrifice like that, then bring the rook and try to capture on c3. Or maybe just queen before, offering an exchange of the queens, and then threatening a check on b2. And if white exchanges the queens, then white is down the exchange, and it's over. So knight e4 doesn't work. Well, obviously it's rook g7. How do I see that rook g7 works here? Well, first of all, as I said, the king is on the... Well, it is separated from his army, and these pieces are not able to help him. The rook may help, potentially. We have these two into the attack, and potentially we are about to bring the knight, but we always have to keep an eye on queen e1. If they don't take, it's a winning position, of course, because you take on h6, you take on f7. So if they play this move, then you can play this and threaten with a checkmate like that. They have to take. And then I see that the king may mainly maneuver using the dark squares. And if I don't want the king to escape, I can play queen f6. Two squares for the king. Two squares for the king. So let's say the king goes to g8. How would you continue then? Okay, so one suggestion is bishop h7. Sacrifice the bishop in order to do what? To draw the game with a perpetual check? Well, yeah, it is a perpetual check, but, well, you can do it once you don't see a win. Well, instead, you can try this. And now you're threatening with a very common mating pattern. So let me illustrate it. I just play a random move, bishop h7. So f8 square, the escape square is covered. The king has to go to h8, where it is the object of a discovery check. And then by playing bishop g7, g6, I mean, I attack f7 pawn. How does it help? Then I can coordinate my queen and the bishop together by doing queen takes f7. So actually, after queen takes h6, here I'm threatening with a checkmate. How can he stop such a checkmate? Good question. Probably with f5 only. En passant, and I'm threatening another checkmate. And here, according to what I understand, the only way to stop a checkmate is this. After which I just capture right away, or maybe queen g6 as an capture right away, and this pawn becomes now strong. So I'm still threatening with a checkmate, and it seems like a completely winning position because how to play. So this is coming. Queen h7. There is no way to defend h7 with the queen. Probably king should go to f7 right away. At the very least, I have a check, which guarantees extra knight in the endgame. But I can also try this move, let's say, because if the king goes there, then this is a checkmate. And if the king goes there, then I can continue with knight e4. And after that, queen h5, winning a queen, let's say. Okay, fine. So it is a winning position after queen h6 because I'm threatening with this, and f5 doesn't save the game. And there is no better move rather than f5 to stop bishop h7. What about this move? The idea of this move is that once I take, king escapes there, and it seems that I have to repeat the position with queen f6. But what's the point? What's the best way to succeed with an attack here? Mhm. Thanks. So it's bishop g6. Yeah, thanks. Milana suggested it first, but you guys are also absolutely correct. So bishop g6, because how does he defend f7? Moving the king doesn't make any sense. It's just a simple checkmate. But rook e7 may work. However, rook e7 takes the only available square for the king. So now the king cannot escape. Queen h8 is just a checkmate. That's it. So again, here we sacrificed another piece, not, well, we sacrificed the rook because the enemy king was separated from his army, and because we are able to, we have enough forces to succeed with a checkmate, and also because we dominate on the dark squares after queen f6, preventing the king from escaping. Let's continue. The next example is taken from a real game. It was Alexei Suetin playing against Vladimir Bagirov. These were strong Soviet masters. I don't know if they were green masters then. Probably they were. Okay, there is no information on Lichess regarding their ratings, but so here it's Cheveningen. It's Sicilian with d6 e6 against d4 f4, and the king is castle to the king side. Well, usually I have this position with a pawn on a6 because I start with Sicilian, where a6 is the fourth move. So sometimes even the third move if white doesn't play d4. Okay, so how to play? Well, he played e5. That makes sense. Then d takes e5, bishop takes e5. Why bishop e5? Well, first of all, this bishop was hanging. Second, there is no possibility of doing this move because of bishop takes f6, and there is a pin. That's why queen b6. Well, white continues an attack because they have more pieces into the attack, so they play f5. E takes f5, rook takes f5, and then black makes actually a good move. They played bishop d6. Why this move is good? Well, first of all, this is a poisoned bishop. If you decide to take it, it's just an exchange, and doing queen d6 is a complete blunder, right? And then white loses their queen. So why black decided to exchange? Well, if you are under the attack, you of course should try to exchange enemy attacking pieces because well, if your opponent doesn't have any attacking pieces or have just a few attacking pieces, he is unlikely to succeed with a checkmate. And if you are an attacking player, I instead suggest to bring more pieces to the attack. So for example, if you can do a check with two pieces, for example, one which is already involved into the attack and the one which is not doing anything at the moment, do this move with the piece which is not doing anything at the moment, because this is how you bring that piece to the attack. Maybe it covers the squares where the king can escape, or maybe it later may help you um, to cover certain squares and continue the attack in the way you want. So bishop d6. Well, how to play? Well, there are a lot of good moves. You can also consider this option, but uh, it seems that it doesn't work because after g takes f7, the pawn is poisoned and the attack doesn't compensate the exchange sacrificed. So again, queen f6, bishop g2. Here in the game, it was queen g7 played, exactly. So guys, Shahrazad and Paul, as well as Milana, are absolutely right. But together with Alexei Suetin, you all are mistaken. Because queen g7 is an unsound sacrifice. Such a move was played in the game, however, it is a mistake. Nowadays we can say that this is a mistake because we can just push the engine and the engine shows how to defend. But the time when this game was played, it was actually played in 1963. Uh, uh, there were no engines. And I don't know, but I can guess that after this game was played, such a combination was published in Soviet newspapers. Like, you see, so Alexei Suetin is a major tactician. He sacrificed the queen and was able to defeat his very strong opponent. So what a nice tactics. Because I think that, well, people trusted grandmasters, and probably there were no better grandmasters who can prove that it doesn't work. Okay, so queen g7 works in one case, and it doesn't work in case if black plays something else. So, for example, how to continue here? Definitely take, and definitely take with the bishop, because what else? So this move, well, if the king goes to h8, it's of course a checkmate. But if the king goes there, then what? So bishop takes f6. Well, it was actually a similar position played in the game, but no, it's not working. For example, bishop f4. So how to continue this move? Then rook takes d3 or king takes h5. Okay, so bishop f6, then how to play? Black decided that they should move the king to h6, and that was their main mistakes, and that was their main mistake, and because of that, they lost the game. If only black here played this, he would defend his position properly. What's the difference? Well, this is an attacking move. How to continue? Well, probably rook d3. Maybe this is the move that black didn't like, because now the rook can go anywhere and threaten any piece or even continue the attack of the king. But you can liquidate this bishop if only you get rid of this bishop. So bishop e7. What to play now? Well, probably take, because if you decide to play this move, winning the queen, it still fails. How? Take, take, take. Black is a rook up, and there is no checkmate. We can take the rook with a bishop threatening the queen. Ah, you mean this move. So this move. Yes, you can play like that too, but let's say queen takes. Where is your attack? Now I'm covering some certain squares, so even a check is not possible. Even if you play this, what then? So bishop h5, king g7, and you cannot use these squares. No, well, it doesn't work. So here, bishop d3, bishop e7, and in case if bishop takes on e7, it's rook takes d3, because this rook is hanging. So for example, this, king goes there, c takes d3, and it's still not enough. For example, this move, and if the bishop goes there, it's bishop g2, queen takes there, and black has material advantage. That's why rook f1, threatening with this, or threatening with this and this. Then, because then there is a checkmate. However, in this position, black would find this move. I think that the reason why black didn't play it, they just didn't notice rook f3. Look at this nice move. This nice move breaks the connection between two pieces. In case if g takes f3, it's simply king takes f5. Even the check on g5 doesn't work. For example, this, king h6, g takes f3, it seems that the rook was sacrificed for nothing. But now queen e3, which is a double attack. So this move and bishop f3 works. Yeah, bishop f3 works. Rook takes f3, queen takes f3, the bishop is hanging. Rook f3, what else to play? Well, if this move, then rook takes, and white doesn't have enough material to threaten the king. Well, same thing with this move. So rook f3 saves the game. Probably black didn't find it, and that's the reason why they rejected king g6. They played king h6, and then it works. So rook a f1, queen e3, rook h5 check, king g6, and rook h3, queen h3, because the g pawn is pinned. That's why rook h4, threatening with bishop h5. Well, how to stop it? Black played bishop f4. So sacrificing, but at least it stops bishop h5, because now bishop h5, king takes on f6. So why I'm saying that bishop h5 is a threat? So let me make a random move and illustrate it. This is a checkmate. So bishop f4 stops it. Then rook takes. Now h5, bishop d8, rook d8, and in this position, it seems white has a compensation. There is no checkmate, of course, but there is a compensation. So you can play rook f6, rook f7. White decided to play this move. And black thought that if they move the king, it's already over because of this, king h8, and then maybe something, I don't know, this move is forced. Because rook h7 doesn't make much sense. The king g2 and the king is weak too. So for example, bringing the rook here doesn't lead to a win. This time, actually, rook d3 can be played with queen e1 on the next move. And white has only a perpetual check. So they decided to sacrifice here the material back. Now it's two rooks versus queen. And in a few moves, well, in 10 moves, black lost the game. I don't think it is important for us to go through the whole game here. Can't we take the rook when they threaten the bishop? Well, I don't fully understand in which position. So here, king. Okay, anyway, so not here probably. Okay, so let's sum it up. So here, queen g7 was unsound and not well calculated, but black would, if black wanted to save the game, they should uh, get their pieces coordination, and it's not so easy for a human player to find such moves like rook takes d3 and rook f3, breaking the connection. That's why even if you think that it's a bit suspicious, you can still play such a sacrifice, especially if your opponent is low on time or if you're playing blitz, because black would have to spend a lot of time and would have to play accurately. Otherwise, you have a strong domination that you are likely to take advantage of. Okay, so let's continue with our next example. The game between Aaron Nimzovich and Digbert Tarash. We are not going to analyze the whole game, so it was Tarash defense. Well, I also from time to time get such a position, but from a different move order. So knight is coming there. G6 is a must. Knight goes back, while black has the control over the center, more space also. Bishop b5, knight goes to e4. Very nice move, especially if black wants to start the attack, because every time the knight takes, h2 becomes vulnerable because this knight has to move. So this, and queen c2. Knight takes d2. Knight takes d2. And d4 was played. So a sacrifice of a pawn. Well, I cannot say it is a sacrifice, because at the very least, oh no, it's a sacrifice because then c6 is hanging. So yeah, a sacrifice. And white accepted this sacrifice. They'd better play maybe g3, trying to secure their position. Black would have to move their bishop away from the spin and maybe threaten with queen b7 later in the game. But they decided to take. So the question is how to play in this position. If you think queen h4, well, okay, it deserves attention. Queen h4. Yeah, let's decide how to defend. Maybe g3 works. Actually, g3 may work, but I want to play f4 instead. f4, bishop f4. And then which move to try? Maybe knight f3. Also, I think just queen h4. Can I just play h3? Probably it works too. Okay, so I absolutely agree with Brian. When bishops are like this, it is tempting to sacrifice them. Well, yes, it is. But which order would you prefer? Which of these bishops you want to sacrifice first? Okay, so I'm waiting for your suggestions as well as for the suggestions of spectators on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I see. I see what you mean. So many of you would like to start with this move. Bishop takes h2. Well, if so, I would say that you play like Zigbert Tarash. Oh, thanks. So Like if you decide to play bishop takes h2, you are as strong as Zigbert Tarash, which is great. But if you play bishop takes g2, you are even stronger than Tarash. This move works better. So why? Well, they cannot avoid taking because their position is compromised. There is a strong attack. So let's say just f4 trying to escape. Then you just take. Maybe they instead should move the rook. But if that happens, at least you have queen g5 and then bishop retreats and queen checkmates, because it's hard to find anything attacking the queen. So the knight moves bishop f3, the knight moves there, bishop f4. So h4 probably, queen g4. Okay, so that's why they have to take it. And once they take it, instead of playing anything else, we can try queen g5. Knight f1 can defend. Let me see. Knight f1 can defend. Well, but at least you lose a queen. And even if you play knight g3, I can just take. Well, not now. Well, maybe. Yeah, I would prefer to take the queen then. Well, I also like this move, threatening checkmate. But then knight g3 works. Bishop takes, f takes, and the king escapes to f2. So just take the queen. So bishop g2, king takes, and queen g5. Now the king has to move. 3 squares again. This. Well, let's start with something simple. For example, king h3. If the king goes to h3, it's simply queen h5, right? He goes back, we can take on h2, he escapes. And now in order to checkmate, what do you think? Which move do we have to play? Well, there is, when you have the attack, there is no obligatory task to checkmate. When you have attack, it is considered a kind of advantage that you can transform into a different form of advantage. For example, let's say you can transform your attack to extra material, which is very common. Like if you win a knight or a queen or a rook, then you are completely winning and you take benefits of this attack. And almost always your opponent has a chance to defend his king at the cost of material sacrifice. So bringing the rook to e8, queen h3, bringing the king to the middle allows him to escape. So rook f e8 to prevent the king. Well, maybe you can play with this rook and there is no difference, but the key idea is that you stop the king coming there. How does he play? Well, let's say knight e4, queen f4, and at the very least you take this knight. Rook g1 doesn't work neither. Queen f4, king g2, and rook a2 double attack. It is a pin, and you also threaten f2, and queen f2 leads to a checkmate, and rook f2 leads to a checkmate as well. So what else? Maybe this move. Well, this move, it's still queen f4 and the same move here. So they have to defend, and then you, I don't see anything. Well, then you checkmate like that, actually. You can take here, but it's better to checkmate. Okay, fine. So king h3 is a losing move. King h1. King h1 is a losing move too, because, okay, so the question especially for Shahrat, how should we play? What's the best move for black? You can message me personally. I mean, send a private message here in the Zoom chat. Yeah, in that position, when there was a pin, your queen could stay on g3 even. Okay, fine. Good point. So queen h5. No. Well, it's very important to not make mistakes. Here, if you decide to attack through the h file, you allow your opponent to play f4. Maybe you can take on f4, but this allows his queen to defend h2, and just any knight move saves the game. Queen d5, then just queen e4 probably. Queen f4. So this attack is the most effective one because it mechanically blocks the f pawn. And how does they defend? I mean, well, this move is a queen blunder, or it is a knight blunder. Now with equal material, you will definitely find how to play. For example, this. Well, you can take on d4, or you can just play this move, vacating the d5 square for your rook. Let's say this. Queen g4, he goes there, and you win the rook. If, let's say, queen c5, then you do this, and even queen c6 doesn't help. So queen f4, remember, otherwise they can block with the f pawn. With queen f4, you mechanically block it. The other option is king f3, and well, queen h5, the move that John suggested, but still it seems like rook f8 is much better, because you always have this move. So, for example, like that, and rook e2, similar to previous variations. So bishop g2 was the best way to play. Tarash played bishop h2 and then delivered the check and then captured it on g2. So, well, it works too, but it doesn't work as well as bishop takes g2 immediately. And there is a big difference. When you sacrifice two knights, you are you are much more responsible for the moves you play, because if you then win one piece, it may be not enough to compensate the other piece sacrificed. So you have to play accurate moves and make sure that you win enough material to compensate to bishop sacrifice, or you checkmate. So from a practical point of view, one piece sacrificed, and continue the attack with another bishop, with a dark square bishop on the board, trying to checkmate on h2. This is what I would play. Well, what happened? So, well, they played f3 and sacrificed material there, you see. So black has to consider what happens if they don't take on g2. Well, let's first talk about taking on g2. So this, and bring the rook to the game. So, but even now, they would have to sacrifice the queen. And if you take the queen, maybe rook takes, and it's not enough material, because you have a queen and a queen against two minor pieces and the rook. So look at this position. It seems it's not enough to compensate the queen. This material costs more. Maybe because of your attack, you can at least get a perpetual check here. So you have to play accurately instead. Rook h5. Queen has to take. Queen takes h5. The king is forced to go to the g file and then f4, like John suggested. So this move. Then you take the knight, and then yes, you have a full compensation, more than a full compensation for the queen, and you are completely winning. Okay, so f3 was played in the game. And now taking doesn't provide black with decisive material advantage. So they have to continue their attack with this move, leaving the bishop hanging. Knight e4, queen h1, king goes there. How would you play in this position? Okay, thanks, James. It's bishop takes rook. Well, queen h2 seems to be premature, but maybe it works too. No, queen h2, he can try to escape. Yeah, instead bishop f1. The idea is that with this move, you simply win a rook, because if rook takes, it's queen h2 and you win a queen. And, well, knight f6 here doesn't make much sense. You can checkmate here like that, for example. d5 was played in the game. But f5, well, d5 in order to activate the bishop, so you can do that. But f5, queen c3, threatening a checkmate. And now black had to play very accurately. All moves should be checks. Queen g2, king e3, rook sacrifices. So, well, the rook sacrifice. F takes e4. And, well, here it's a simple checkmate with queen g3, like that. Taras didn't notice it. He played f4. It works too. So this queen goes there to prevent king d6. King goes there, and well, bishop h3, then queen h3. So this check, and then he brings the bishop to b5. So this is a checkmate. But you see, it seems that black won this game because he was simply lucky, because such a move in the position exists. If instead he played properly and sacrificed the bishop on g2 first, he would definitely win. And that was the best way to take advantage of, no, to realize his advantage that he already had. So pieces into the attack. The Lasker combination was not the best way here. So bishop g2 first, and then keep attacking with these three pieces. Queen, dark squared bishop, and the rook on d8. Okay, fine. But you see, in all cases, we create tactical opportunities based on the weakness of the king, and especially based on that factor that the enemy pieces are a little away from the king and cannot join the defense as fast as possible. What we are going to do now? So now we are going to play the game where you would have to sacrifice. So knight h5 was played here, f6, and knight g7 sacrifice was played, exposing the king. Your task will be to continue this attack. So I'm going to play bishop e2, queen e2, so like that, and then king g7. So actually you start thinking from this position, but I will start the game from here, so you know your next moves. So this, bishop e2, queen e2, and then after king g7, you would have time to think. So I'm going to start from here. What else? Before we continue with this, let me share. So let me share the whole screen. If you like my webinars, you can donate. That will help me to organize my work better. Well, of course, webinars are free and everyone can attend, but if you have a possibility to support me and support my team, that helps me to prepare the games as well as do announcement, please use this link. It's really easy. You click this button and it redirects you to this window where you enter the amount you want to donate, and then you click here PayPal button, and now you can enter your PayPal account and send money to me directly. Okay, what else you can do? If you like the webinars, you can share about these webinars with your friends and let them know. What else? So you remember I was talking about our group classes that are going to start from the beginning of December, from the 2nd December. We almost finished, and most likely this upcoming week, you will receive an email with a promotional email of these 3 months of group lessons. Well, as I promised, the lessons will be cheap. It's less than $10 per class. So well, I'm not going to send you the link right away. You are going to receive an email after everything gonna work. So what is it? So there will be 24 classes, 24 group classes. These are live sections. Each class is 1 hour and a half. So we start on Mondays and Fridays, 5 p.m. EST. So, we start when most Americans living in the East Coast finish their work. Well, for Europeans, it's a little late, but even if you miss, you still get a recording, a notification. I mean, a recording and the homework. So you can watch the video of the class later and then join us next time. So, well, this is what we are going to cover. 2 lessons per week. So 24 lessons, 3 months. The date is not correct. We start on the December the 2nd. If you want to see what we are going to talk about, you just click here and it shows what we are covering on during this week, and so on. There will be a lot. This is a complex, it's better to say it's a complete course. I cover all chess aspects. I'll be a presenter, and the form of these lessons will be similar to our webinars. It will be a Zoom meeting, so only people who are enrolled will be able to attend. There will be no streams. However, the recording will be sent to those who participated. And finally, pricing. So, $220 for the whole course, and it's actually a little if you divide it to the number of lessons. So let me see. Let me do some calculations here. For 24 lessons, it's almost $9 per class. And having in mind that each class is 1 hour and a half, so it's $6 per hour, which is a very affordable. There are 2 ways to pay. You can pay the whole amount. In such a case, you pay this, or you can pay on a monthly basis, so 3 months. But this time you pay a little higher, so $20 more. But in both cases, it is less than $10 for a class, per class. So again, everything is recorded. You will receive access by the end of the class, or maybe the next day. It's from 12 to 1500 on chess.com. But actually, those who consider themselves to be from 1000 to 1700 are welcome. So you will definitely benefit. So for example, Shahrat, I think even being 700, I think you are, according to what you suggest, you are closer to something like 1100. So I think you may benefit from this course of group lessons. Nothing else needed. Do your homework. There will be a lot of work to do, and yeah, that's all. So this is what we are going to announce the upcoming week. So almost everything is done, and my content is partially prepared. I will work on it during our classes and maybe modify a little, but the plan is already done, and we have the content for the first few classes. Fine. What we are going to do now? Let's play. Let's go to chess.com. Who wants to play? We are going to start. Let me send you. We are going to start from this position. I send it in the chat. And your task is to sacrifice a knight there. So if you want to play against me with white pieces, so I'll be defending, you will be attacking. Just tell me your username. So So 15 plus 10, and this, I'm playing with black, then, so who wants to play? So you want to play with black? Why? Okay, so yeah, you can play with black. Okay, fine. Okay, the challenge is sent. Please accept. If anybody else wants to play, let me know. You can share your username in the chat, and I'll send you a challenge. So, Shakarat, in order to start the game, you need to enter the live section of chess.com. So you need to click play. Okay, you did it. Okay, so let's say, okay, fine. I take on g7. So you can take my bishop if you want, or you my knight if you want, but you can do anything you want here. You can take immediately, for example. But the key thing is that you have to play within 30 seconds, otherwise the game will be aborted. Okay, bishop e2, queen e2. So after that, we are going to analyze this game. Again, your second move has to be played within a minute. Yeah, it's logical. So you do that. Okay. King g7. So how do I continue this time? Okay. Okay, queen h5. Bishop e4 or queen h5? Okay, queen h5. Okay, Johnny wants to play. Okay. Okay, the challenge is sent. Okay, so knight c2 here. Well, knight c2 here, but I think I just take on e4, and I'm threatening with a checkmate. So, Johnny, the challenge is sent for you. Please join. Oh, let me replace it. Okay, fine. So this time I'm defending with black. Well, it's not g7. Otherwise, well, this is our main topic. You have to take on g7, so there is no nothing to think, and that's the reason why I decided to rewind the game a little to give you two moves for free, so you save time. Okay, h6. Okay, h6. Well, unfortunately, it is a blunder because I can play queen g6. Yeah, knight g7. I take on e2, and my next move is king g7. Yeah, this is a checkmate. So yeah, well, it was a strong attack. Black would have to play accurately. Okay, bishop e4. Bishop e4 does make a lot of sense, and queen h5 is coming. Well, how do I have to defend? I cannot escape because of queen h5 is coming. H6 leads to queen h5. Ideally, I want to play. Okay, let me play rook f7 to evacuate my king to f8. Maybe it will work. Oops. I didn't notice that there is a rook hanging. So rook a7 was the best move, maybe. Okay, fine. Knight d5. Okay, yeah, well, I think you can do a rematch, but this time you have to play. So he takes. How to send? Oh, rematch. I don't know if it starts from. Yeah, it starts from this position. So I playing with white. So knight g7, rook g1, rook g1. Let me escape. So you didn't take. Okay, then I play knight g3. You maybe say that this is a blunder because I give up on f1, but then I have knight h5. Queen a6. Okay, queen f4. So I'm covering h6. Well, actually, I'm threatening with queen f3, maybe. I don't know. Oh, bishop d6 is a threat. Well, queen e2. So I have to move to e4. Knight h5, knight h5. So not sure if I should play it. Okay, let me. Maybe it was a mistake to play knight g3, actually. Oh, bishop takes, okay. King h2. So I cannot play bishop d6, unfortunately, but what can I do? d4. Queen c2. Okay, so d4, queen here, knight blocks, rook f7, king f7, queen c4, check. No, I don't like it. So the queen is here. Okay, so let's take on c2. Queen h5. Oh, I don't have many squares, so queen e4 back. So knight blocks. Then I take on f7 with my king, of course. Oh, bishop g7. Oh, very nice move that I underestimated. Oh, actually, it's a losing move because everything is pinned. So after this, it's just queen e8. Now, which piece do I block with? If I block with the bishop, it's queen f7. So I have to block with a rook. Queen f4. Oh, it looks like I didn't see it. Okay, let me bring the bishop and the rook to the game. Okay, yes, it's over. Okay, so I take and then queen takes. So it's time to resign. Okay, good game, Johnny. I wish you could play like that in the games that you show me every week, like the ones that you play in the tournaments. So here I'm a rook down, but yeah, I'm down a rook. Fine. There is a knight hanging. Well, a rook down, it's actually a lot. Probably knight g3 sacrificing on f1 was a mistake. So g6, queen h6. What about queen here? Maybe bishop e4. Because f5 can be never played because of the pin. And queen g5 doesn't work neither because I can take on g5 just simply. Okay, those of you who have to go, I'm going to send a homework here in the chat, as well as I'm going to um, send it tomorrow by email. So I am waiting your suggestions at tricksofchess@gmail.com. A3 is interesting. I didn't expect. So how do you defend against bishop e4? Do you sacrifice the queen? Knight h6. Knight h6 has a nice idea behind. So if I take with the queen, you have a rook f7. Yeah, let me think a little. So my knight is under attack. G takes f6 deserves attention, but he may not take with the bishop. I mean, not now, because I lose a queen if I do it now. What else? I can try to gain a tempo and then take on f6. Yeah, let's try to gain a tempo first. On f7. So queen g3 is coming, then maybe, well, queen f7, maybe there is a perpetual check. If I do, okay, this move, okay, fine. And if this move, can I take? Yeah, I think so. Let's take. So I want to open my bishop as well as to take here or there. You cannot take with a rook, it's always a checkmate. This move. Okay, so let me defend the knight because it's under attack. So I cannot play with a knight. Well, what else I can do? Bishop h7 makes a lot of sense, but at least queen g3, I do that. There is no checkmate. Okay, let's just play defensive move. Okay. So easy one threat? Not sure. So does bishop h7 work here? Yeah, probably it does. Oh wait, no, it does. No, it does. So let's say this f7, e5. No, I cannot take advantage of it. So taking with a queen. So I still don't like my position, actually. And now I'm down exchange only. So it's possible if I exchange the queens, I may not lose the game because I have a strong pawn on f6. Oh, these are good news, but if I my king is weak too, that's the problem. Okay, fine. So this becomes a threat. Knight h5, let's say. Maybe. Well, bishop a1 definitely no. Bishop b4, no. Queen f3, no. Queen takes, rook takes g3. Then maybe it still works. No, unlikely. Well, okay, knight h5. There is no checkmate, so this move, king takes. d5, queen g4. Yeah, probably knight h5, because bishop h7 doesn't look good. Rook g3 then. And how should I play then? Because it's a mating threat. Well, if I take... Oh, bishop d2 is a move also. Queen f6? No, it's not. Okay, knight h5 then. Oh, wait a sec. I could play better. I could play... no, I couldn't. So yes, I don't know what I wanted with bishop h7. Bishop h7, king h7, and I wanted to bring my queen there. But then queen h6. So maybe I take on f7. That was my idea. But I didn't like bishop h7 because of rook takes g3. So queen h3 is a threat, a deadly threat. Okay, so what do I have to do? I can exchange the rooks and then what? If I'm not exchanging the rooks, well, doing this move, let's say, it looks like a good idea, but then queen h3, king goes to g1. Okay, rook g7, I'm threatening h7. Am I really threatening h7? Not seriously, actually, so I don't like it. So, okay, so I can try this, and then either queen g2 or queen g4. Queen g4 passes the game to the end game, where I'm down exchange, but it's likely to be a favorable position for me because of the f6 pawn. Queen g2, if the king goes there, I'm winning. No, I'm not. So queen g4 is a must. So the knight is not doing much there, but okay. It can go to g7 and attack there. So g5, this is what I want to play next. Knight e2. So bishop d4. We keep defending. I thought knight d5 is better than knight a2. Because the knight is out of the place of action. Okay, okay, you are trying to bring it back to there. That was the purpose. Okay, I see it. Clever. Okay, g5, and at least I can move my bishop away. Or knight g7. How does knight g7 work? Knight g7, knight e2. Or I can just play this move. And then e5. Okay. It's still a possibility, actually. Bishop f3 stops the knight. Because g5 allows black to activate their knight and control these two squares. So bishop f3. Because e5, bishop e3 with a tempo. f6 is protected, which is fine. So these are my next moves. I don't know in which order, probably g5 first and then knight g7. In case of h6, I can do a fork and take on h6, and it's a good idea in my opinion. Yeah, I think I have really good chances, but I was mistaken several times when starting this attack, actually. Okay, so yeah, I can at least play bishop e3, but I think h6 was probably the best option. So bishop here, knight has to move to a2. Then I take on h6 and I can advance my pawns further. Is there anything else I have? G5, knight g7, e5. No, okay, let's do this. Yes, we can bring the king to action, that's right, but first let's capture material if it's possible. Because if I let black defend their weaknesses, I'm not winning. So let's take here. So c3, knight jumps there. So instead I should keep restricting the enemy knight. So with this move I protect, also cover here. This bishop cannot be attacked, and my plan is doing this. So g5, maybe knight f4. Well, I don't think it's a problem. Oh, actually, it can be. But this is a problem at the moment. Knight takes. So g5, knight f4. This is hanging. So let's say I take, bishop takes. And once I play g6, no, I don't like it. So I don't like knight f4. What else I can do? Bishop g5 right away. Or I can just take there. Actually, I like bishop g5, then c4. No, I don't like it. So g5, knight f4 is coming. And if I take it, it's not a good idea. So bishop g7 is a move also. No, so that shouldn't give up this square. So take, g5. King h7. So it doesn't work. Okay, bishop g5 left. What else? Now bishop g5, bishop e5. Okay, so g6 is a must. g5, knight f4. I can play knight g7 instead. Okay, let's play g5 and then let me think. So knight f4. Then I can play knight g7. Potentially attacking this. Just potentially. No, bishop f5. So g6 you want to sacrifice. So knight goes there, it's a sacrifice here. If I take. Okay, let's b3, c3, b3 for a while. C3 traps the knight, and the knight can go there. So while I have a bishop here, I don't think that the knight is dangerous. I can try to bring the king to the game here, but I should be very accurate because there are now a lot of sacrifices with such moves like knight f6 or bishop f6 or even rook f6. Ah, when the knight was on a2, c3. Well, yeah, I think c3 was a good move then. I missed it. So finally this. Okay, so take g6 fails because bishop ac h6 and so on. G6 fails right away. So knight takes f4. This. If I move my king, it's rook f6. Right. So if I move this, there is nothing to do. But if I play this move, bishop f6, take, rook takes. It's a pity. Okay, so take, bishop g6, rook f6. Pawn takes, bishop takes h6. It should be a winning position. What else? This move. And knight g6. Okay, let me calculate once. Oh, I'm low on time. I'm low on time. Knight takes, bishop takes, king moves. No. 7. So what was my original line? Okay. Okay, let it be. Well, let it be a more complicated position. Let's do like that. Ah, then it's a bishop sacrifice. Of course it is. So I missed it. It's a pity. So how can I play now? How was it possible? So I take, and then I have everything hanging. Okay, so let me try something like that. I don't think it's a good idea, but anyway. So I'd better play knight g3 actually. Okay, anyway, fine. Knight h3 didn't expect. Okay, king g2. Oh, I blundered here. Why didn't I take on f6? Oh, knight g5. Okay, knight f6. At least I'm left with a bishop pair here. But I made so many mistakes here. Okay, fine. This is completely winning, of course. Okay, fine. Let me think a little. So maybe this move. That should be okay. At the very least, I can sacrifice the bishop for one of the pawns. So the c2 pawn is hanging. Okay, fine. No, it's not. Actually, it's not at the moment. But then I have to play king c6, but it's fine. It helps me to promote my pawn. Now it is hanging, but now I have bishop c8. So c4, e3 cannot be played. Let's do this. Maybe c3 was a better move, actually. Check, king takes e4. Well, it's a losing position, of course. Nothing can stop my pawns. And I still have another one to promote. Okay. So I even don't need to checkmate with a bishop pair here. Protect, promote, then. So should we play for a checkmate? I don't think it's a good idea because, well, what do you want to show? That the FIDE master doesn't know how to checkmate with a queen? Of course I do know. Maybe I won't do it in the best way, but there is still a checkmate. So, well, my recommendation to all, if you think that you are lost and your opponent can defeat you, you'd better resign. Okay, fine. Let me quickly show you what happened in the game originally. So knight g7, bishop takes e2. Well, maybe not the best move. Queen takes a2, king g7, and bishop f4. So the key idea was the coordination of these two pieces. Knight goes to d5, queen h5. So rook f d8, trying to let the king to escape. But rook g1, similar to what Johnny played against me, trying to get the rook involved. It was bishop c5 in the game, but g takes f6 is a double check, so the rook cannot be captured. Doing this means f7 and the game is over. Why it's over? So f7, knight blocks, then queen h7 mate. So king goes to f8 instead, but rook g8 still wins the game. How? Well, the king has to take and then bishop h7. Because if queen takes h7, it's f7. So now the king either has to force to move away and leave the queen hanging, or they have to take with the queen and then get checkmated. King f8, queen g6, threatening with a checkmate. And they have to sacrifice the knight. So, well, this is a completely winning position, even without exchange, but with such a weak king, it's not possible to survive. So if this move, it's bishop g6. If king goes to e7, queen g5. So the king went there in the game. Well, he could also play this move and just take the bishop, for example. It's definitely winning with no chances. After this move, it's still queen c5, and then white succeeded with this attack. So what do I want to say? Once you see that you have material advantage on the king side, you may consider sacrificing pieces, and maybe it can be the g7 because you know what you are doing once the king, what you're going to do once the king reaches g7. For example, here the key idea was to exploit this pin as well as to bring the queen and the bishop to the attack by doing queen h5 and bishop f4. Fine. So that's all for the webinar. So we did more than 2 hours. So let's finish and let's meet on next Sunday. Let's meet next Sunday. Also, tomorrow I'm going to send an email with the recording of this webinar as well as the homework. So thanks for participating. Share with your friends about these webinars. Maybe they are going to join us next time and they will benefit from learning chess too. Okay. See you next